Okay, so we are on Kav Gimel Amud Beis 23b, discussing the first case in our Mishnah, discussing and the ability to invalidate judges. So, right in the middle of the page, Ki Asur of Dimi. Ki Asur of Dimi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Machlokas, the Machlokas, if you could or cannot invalidate a judge, is B'shtei Kite Edim. You have two sets of witnesses. The Rav Meir Savar Tzarech Levar, Rabban Savar Ein Tzarech Levar. Rav Meir holds if you say you're going to bring two sets of witnesses, then you have to bring two sets of witnesses. And therefore, if the litigant and someone else come and testify against only one set of your witnesses, since you have to bring a second set, so they're less nogea be'edus, they're less vested in the. We don't invalidate their testimony because these aren't the only witnesses. Since you're planning to bring other witnesses, so we do believe them. The Rabbanan Sabri ain't tzarich levar. Rabbanan hold just because you say you're going to bring two sets of witnesses does not obligate you to have to bring it. And if you only brought one set of witnesses, so then if the litigant goes with someone else and invalidates them, so that's not going to be a valid invalidation, because since this is the only witnesses you have, we don't let a litigant and someone else invalidate them because he has a vested interest and he's not allowed to invalidate them. Aval b'kas achas, if only one group of witnesses, then divrei kol ein yochel posten. Even if Meir says, if all the guy says, I'm going to bring one set of witnesses, then we don't let the litigant, the other litigant, and another witness testify that his counterpart's witnesses are invalid. So Amru lefana Rav Ami v'Rav Asi, ein sham elakat achas nahu. There's only one set of witnesses. What's the halacha? Says the Gemara. We just told you if only one set of witnesses, everyone, Rav Meir and the Chachamim both agree, you cannot invalidate them. No, so the question was like this: Ela nimtis kas shnia kroven upsulin. So what's the case over here? So Reuben and Shimon go to court. Shimon goes and he says he's going to bring two sets of witnesses. So he brings one set of witnesses. And now Reuven and another witness come and want and invalidate them. Now it happens to be that when Shimon brings a second group of witnesses, they happen to be invalid anyways. One's a relative or one's not allowed to testify. So when the second group is either krovim, relatives, or psulin, or invalid to testify, mahu, what happens with the first set of witnesses? So Amr Lahan, Kvar Heidu Eidim Harishonim. Once you've already testified on the first set of witnesses, so Rav Meir is going to stay strong with his opinion that if I say I'm going to bring two sets of witnesses, we accept your testimony for the first set of witnesses. Even when the second ones end up being invalid, doesn't matter. And the Rabbanan are going to say that if you bring two sets of witnesses, since you don't have to bring a second pair of witnesses, we are going to invalidate your first testimony. The question was because when you have the second pair of witnesses that's invalid, so you only have right now one pair of witnesses which is valid. And the rule is when you have only one pair of witnesses, so then Reuven can't be one of the witnesses to invalidate Shimon's witnesses. That's only when Shimon brings one pair of witnesses. So what if he brought two pairs of witnesses, but one pair is invalid? So in essence, he only has one good set of witnesses. So maybe you would have thought there Rav Meir would agree that that's the same as bringing one set of witnesses. That the Gemara says, really, you're right, except we already accepted their testimony. We're not going to retroactively say that their testimony was invalid because it ended up being that there's only one good set of witnesses. So that was Igdamri Amar Rav Ashi. Some say Rav Ashi said it. Kvar Heidu Eidim Harishon. That the first set already, the witnesses already testified on the first set, and therefore we're not going to retroactively change that halacha. So now this machlokas, Rav Meir and the Chachamim, of when you say you're going to bring two sets of witnesses, does that obligate you to bring the second set or not? Sounds like a Bava Batra machlokas. Name of a book of the Rebbe Shimon Gamliel. Come here, Fligi. The Tanya Habalidon Bishtar Bechazaka guy shows up and says, I have, it says, get off my field. It says, I've been here for 3 years. I have a shtar and a chazaka. So do you have to bring a shtar, a document, and proof that you were there for 3 years or not? So nidon b'shtar divrei Rebbe. Rebbe says, as long as you have your document, you're good to go. Even though you said you have two proofs, but one proof is enough. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel omer nidon b'chazaka, that you're judged b'chazaka. V'havinan ba b'chazaka v'lo b'shtar. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, sorry, does he mean to say we asked on him a chazaka and not a shtar? No. Elaima av chazaka. According to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, you also need to bring a chazaka. If you said you're going to bring both, so then until you bring both, we don't take part of your words. We have to hear the whole thing. So this is a very similar idea. There you have to, everything you promised to bring, you have to bring. And here you promised to bring two sets of witnesses, you also have to do that. So it would match it very nicely. So the kaimalon, the bitzarach levar pligi, and we already established that what their machlokas is, do you have to go and investigate, and do you have to go and bring the people that you promised to bring, or the proofs you promised to bring. So maybe it's the same machlokas, Rabbi Rabbanon, Rav Meir the Chachamim. Rabbi is going to hold ein tzarach levar. That's going to be like Rav Meir and Rabbi. And Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says tzarach levar. Sorry, all the way around. Rav Meir is going to say like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel tzarach levar, and Rabbi is going to hold it to Rabbanon. Says the Gemara lo. Ali, but the Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, according to Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, who says that you have to bring both the chazaka and the shtar. Kuli amalo pligi. No one argues on that. Everyone's going to agree to that. Ki pligi aliba de Rebbe. They argue according to Rebbe that says you only need a shtar, you don't need a chazaka, even though you promised the chazaka. Does that go only like the Rabbanan or even like Rav Meir? So ki pligi, the machlokas is according to Rebbe. The Rav Meir ki Rebbe. Maybe Rav Meir Maybe Rav Meir would hold of Rebbe. Rav Meir holds you have to bring two sets of witnesses. Rebbe holds sorry, all the way around. Rav Meir holds you don't need to bring two sets of witnesses. 1 second. Rav Meir holds you do need to bring two sets of witnesses. So keep ligi alib the Rebbe. The Rav Meir ki Rebbe. Rav Meir would hold, like maybe even he would agree to Rebbe. Rabbanon, and what would the Rabbanon hold? Amri loch ad kan lokama Rebbe. They're going to say no. Rebbe only held that a shtar is enough, and you don't need to bring a chazaka. Why? Hasam ela bechazaka. Rebbe only said his lach over there ela bechazaka. Dimikoach shtara kaasi. There, Rebbe says. One second. Sorry, I flipped it. According to Rebbe, if you say you have a chazaka and a shtar, then you have to bring the shtar. Sorry about that. Then you have to bring the shtar. That's what you have to bring the shtar and be mevarer it. And the chazaka is not going to help you. And on that, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is going to argue and say, chazaka is fine. You don't have to bring a shtar. So Rebbe holds you have to be mevarer. He's going to hold like Rav Meir. And Rabbi Yochanan and the Rabbanan, sorry, who hold that you don't need to be mevarer, they're going to say like this: Amri lech ad kan l'kamer Rebbe hasam ela b'chazaka. Rebbe there says that you need to bring a star because why? Dimi koach star ka'asi. A chazaka only comes from a star, meaning the guy says, I bought land from you. But your chazaka is only going to be good if you can prove somehow that you have land. Meaning, the whole chazaka is only good if you say, I bought you land with a star. You have to have a valid claim to the land. So there, Rebbe requires that if you promise to bring the star, you have to bring the star. Because part of your chazaka is based off the fact that you one time bought this land in a document. Now, if you promise to bring the document, then you have to bring it. But here, also here you have two sets of witnesses. They have no relation to each other. So maybe afilu Rebbe moda, even Rebbe will agree. The ein tzarich levar. Rebbe only said you have to go and bring what you said you're going to bring when they're tightly connected, like a chazaka and a shtar, which the chazaka only comes as an outcome of the shtar, because if you never had a shtar, your chazaka wouldn't get off the ground, because you have to have a valid claim to the land. How did you get the land? So, since one of the ways to acquire land is with a document, so in that case, if you say you have a document, then you have to bring it. Okay. Ki asa Rabin Amar Rabbi Yochanan Reisha be'edim psulim v'dayanim ksheim. Rabin said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that our Mishnah is talking about the following case where you have invalid witnesses, but kosher dayanim, but the judges are valid. So now, migu de pasli edim, pasli nami dayani. So, Rav Meir, who allows you to invalidate the judges, says just like you can invalidate the witnesses, so too, we can accept your testimony and invalidate the judges also. So let's say the case is where Reuven says, Shimon, your witnesses are invalid, and so are your judges. And it turns out that for the witnesses, his words were valid. The witnesses were invalid. It's true. So therefore, we're going to believe his words for the judges too, even without verifying it, it sounds like. So that's what Rav Meir would hold. Seifa, the end of the mission is going to be b'dayanin psulim be'edim ksherim. The migu the pasi dayanin pasi nami edim. Same thing. If a guy goes and invalidates a judge, and it turns out that the judge is really invalid, and the witnesses we never verified, but we're going to believe him on the witnesses too. So that would be how you can invalidate both the judges and the witnesses. That's going to be all Rav Meir. On that we ask, Maskef Rava b'shpishlam amigu the pasli edim pasli nami dayani ike beidin achrino el amigu the pasli dayani pasli nami edim v'ha edim su leka. So let's think about it. In the event in the first case where you invalidate the witnesses, and now we say you came to invalidate both. Your words were accurate for the witnesses, and they're invalid. And now we're saying the judges are also going to be invalid. So that's fine. Why? Because you can always find another 3 judges. It's not a problem. But to say the other way, who says we believe you? To say that since we believe you on the testimony of the judges, turns out you were right. They are invalid. But to then take your words to invalidate the witnesses, we might not find other witnesses. So that's a much bigger novelty to accept. So maybe we're not going to accept that. That's like having one set of witnesses that we said earlier. You have too much of a vested interest that you cannot do that. Says the Gemara, you're right. There must be another set of witnesses. And that's the case where we take your word to invalidate the witnesses if there is another set of witnesses. But and if there's no other set of witnesses, what's going to happen? Yeah, you're not going to be able to invalidate them. Hainu de Rav Dimi, but you, Ravin, came and said the same thing that Rav Dimi said. Rav Dimi started today and said, if there's one group of witnesses, so then you cannot invalidate them. You, Ravin, came from Eretz Yisrael all the way, just to repeat what Rav Dimi said, that if there's not another set of witnesses, then you are not believed to invalidate this set of witnesses. So ikebeinayu migo. Dumar sarina migo, umar savar lo armina migo. There's a big difference. Rav Dimi never held this migo. Since your words hold true in this area, they can hold true in another area. Rav Dimi never said that. That's a novelty of Ravin. So it was worth all of his travels to teach us that when you accept your words, they're found to be true. When you invalidate one group, we're going to believe you on the other group too. Gufa. Okay, so now a little bit of a gadata. Reish Lakish earlier, a daf ago said about someone else. He said, "Could it be that holy mouth really said that?" Yeah. Honor of Meir. Rav Meir said something about our Mishnah, and Reish Lakish said, "How could such a holy mouth say that?" The case there was that you can invalidate witnesses. On that, Reish Lakish said, witnesses, you can only invalidate one witness. So now the Gemara says, Gufa Amar Reish Lakish Pek Kodesh Yomar Davar Zeh Tani Eido. Reish Lakish said you can't invalidate witnesses. You can only invalidate one witness. So now the question is, he spoke about Rav Meir with like such a deference. He said, but Reish Lakish is also a very big person. Reish Lakish v'hamar ula harobas Reish Lakish beis medrash kilu oker harim etochen zeh bazeh. When you saw Reish Lakish learning in the beis medrash, it's like he was uprooting mountains and grinding them together. It's like oker harim means you could bring a proof from anywhere to uproot the other guy. V'tochen zeh bazeh means what you have in front of you. It sounds like you can outsmart him right now with logic. Either way, Reish Lakish was so great. So why was he speaking about Rav Meir? Like, oh, such a holy man said such a thing. So I don't fully understand the question because Rav Meir was much older than him. Reish Lakish wasn't a Mora, and Rav Meir was a Tana. And Rav Meir was from the greatest Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva. I'm not sure why the Gemara is so bothered that he can speak about Rav Meir with such deference. Rav Meir was much greater. Okay, so if you have an answer, let me know. V'halo Kollel Rav Meir beis medrash. Look at Rav Meir in the beis medrash. Ki'ilu Oker Hare Harim. Rav Meir was not only Oker Harim, he was Oker Hare Harim. He was able to uproot many, many mountains. The Tochnin Zebazeh, and he could grind them together. So Rav Meir is also unbelievable and incredible. So sounds like he was also incredible. I guess that's why Reish Lakish spoke about him so highly. But okay, so says the Gemara, no, Hachi Kamar. Look how beloved the Torah teachings were from one to another. Kihadi Yosef, Rebbe, when Rebbe would be sitting, the Kamar Asr Lahatmin, the following case. So Rebbe was sitting and said that in Hilchos Shabbos, there's something called insulating, called Hatmana. So Rebbe said you're not allowed to insulate something cold. Asr Lahatmin Esatzonin. So Amar Lefan of Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Yossi Abba, Rabbi Yossi, he said, Abba hitir lahatnas etzonin. My father allowed, and this is how we hold the halacha, you're allowed to insulate something cold. So now look at Rebbe's response. Amar le kvar horuzakin. The wise man already issued his ruling, and therefore we have to go like him. Now, why was this a sign of such endearment? Amar of Papa, Borei, Kama Mechaben Zedzeh. Rabbi Yossi, the Ilu Rabbi Yossi Kayim, if Rabbi Yossi was alive, Rebbe would subjugate himself to Rabbi Yossi. Hayakafa Fiyoshev Lifnei Rebbe. How do I know? Rabbi Yossi's son, Rabbi Shmuel, the Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, Mimali Makam Avosav. Rabbi Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Yossi, is now the Av Bezdin, or he's head of the court. He's one of the big rabbis of the generation. And what happens? Rebbe sits in front of him, totally subjugated. Hava the Hayakafa of Yosef Lifnei Rebbe. Sorry, Rabbi Shmuel. Sorry, if Rabbi Yossi was alive, he would have been totally subjugated in front of Rebbe. Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi's son, they sit in front of Rebbe, totally subjugated, meaning they're on a lower level. They have the utmost deference to Rebbe. And yet, when they came with a halacha to Rebbe about what his father said, Rebbe responded it with such endearment. Oh, the elder already paskined. He already issued the halacha, and we have to go like it. Basically, Rebbe was much greater, and they were subjugated to him. They deferred their opinion to him. But when it came to this ruling, Rebbe treated them as if they were much greater than him. So that was a sign of endearment. Amar of Oshia Ma'idich now a bunch of psukim until the Mishnah. So Ma'idich, what does it say in the verse? What does it say in the verse? Ve'ekach li shnei makalos. I took 2 sticks like a karasi. No amul echa karasi chovlim. So 2 sticks. One is called pleasant, and one is called the chovel is to injure. So what does this mean? It's referring to people who are pleasant and people who injure others. So what does that mean? Says the Gemara, Noam elu tamid chachamim she'beretz Yisrael, shemanimin zeh lazeh behalacha. The pleasant ones are the rabbis in Israel who they're so pleasant to each other in halacha. Okay, chovlin is like they're very strong with each other. So in Eretz Yisrael they help each other together. That they look into together. In Bavel, elu talmidei chachamim shebebavel in Bavel. They're not helping each other; they're hurting each other. Meaning they're fighting and they're uprooting each other. I'm not sure which is the bigger compliment. I don't know. But Vayomer elu shnei bnei hayitzar ha'omdim v'shnayim zeisim aleha v'shnayim zeisim aleha. So there's these. This is from a verse in Zechariah. The 2 children of Yitzhar that are standing. One of the 2 with 2 olives on them. So let's see what this means. Amar of Yitzchak elu talmidei chachamim she'beretz Yisrael shenochin zeh lazeh behalacha kishem and zayis. They're very pleasant to each other, like olive oil. I guess olive oil is more pleasant. I guess it's like very smooth. Like oil is very smooth, maybe. They're very smooth. They're very, not so rough on each other. Okay. V'shayim zeisim elo talmidei, and what are the other 2 olives? Elo talmidei chachamim shebebavel shemerurin zelazeh. So the olive oil is good and it's pleasant. The other olives that sound like are sour. Who's that? Those are the rabbis in Bavel that are merurin zelazeh ba'alacha kizayis. They're sour to each other like an olive. Okay. The Esa Einai, more in Zechariah. I lift up my eyes, the air, and I see Vehine Shtayim Noshim Yotzos. There are 2 women coming out. The Ruach Bekanfeim, and some kind of wind in their wings. The Lahena Knafim Kikanfei Chasida. And look, their wings are like the wings of a Chasida bird. The Tisaena Ha'efa Beina Shamayim, and they're carrying this measurement by the heavens, Ubeina Aretz, on the land. V'omer el malach hadover bi ani hema molichos as ha'efa. So I'm the one that's going to be carrying this measurement. V'yomer elai livnos la bayis be'eretz shinar. To go build a house in Eretz Shinar. Okay, so what does all this mean to us? Amar Rabbi Yochanan mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Zu, these different things that are mentioned are references to Chanufa, which is flattery. It's not really flattery. A lot of arrogance sounds like self-depiction of yourself as very great. Vegasas haruach, also a different form of arrogance. Sheyardu leBavel. This is referring to the incredible arrogance that came down to Bavel. Vegasas ruach leBavel. Sorry. Zuchanufa gasas ruach sheyardu leBavel. Now, gasas ruach leBavel nachis. The trait of haughtiness came down to the world, to Babylon, to Bavel, the Hamer, Mar, Asar, Kab, and Gasas Ruach. There was 10 calves of Gasas Ruach, of haughtiness, that came down to the world. Right? The Gemara in Kedushin goes through all the things that came down to the world. The beauty, speech. So 10 measurements of haughtiness came down to the world. So it's a funny thing because we see from here the haughtiness came from Shemaim. Hashem put into the world. But the haughty person never thinks about that. thinks about himself. So just interesting. Even his haughtiness came from somewhere else. It wasn't even self-earned. Okay, so the 10 traits, the 10 measures of haughtiness came to the world. Nine. Tisha Natla Elam. 9 was taken by the city of Elam. The Achas Kolom Kula. And then there's only one for the rest of the world. So what do you mean? It doesn't sound like it went to Babylon, to Babel, all the haughtiness. In Lebavel Nachis V'Ishtarubehu Dimishtar Elam. It started in Babel and it went on to Elam. Dekanami, it also sounds like that in the Pasuk. Dechsiv Livnos La Bayis Be'eret Shinar. To build a house in the city of Shinar. I think that's what Shinar is near Elam. Livnos La Bayis Be'eret Shinar. What does it tell you? What does it tell you? Right before the Mishnah, 4 lines before the Mishnah.
I think Shinar is just another name for Babylon, isn't it?
Ah, okay. So what, it's saying that it came down to Babylon? So we see from here that it really did come down to Babel. Okay, maybe. Shmamina, fine. V'hamar mar, you want to know if someone is haughty? Simon, a sign for haughtiness is legasas ruach anias. It's when they're poor. Interesting. Usually being poor is usually a big sign of humility. But I guess they got to their poverty through their arrogance. The anias lebavel nachis, was their poverty in Bavel? Says the Gemara, my anias, as anias the Torah. Poverty means poverty in Torah. Those two things are a total contradiction. You can't have haughtiness and Torah. They don't go together. So it sounds like, what does this mean? Achos lanu ktana. You have a small sister who in Shir Shir it says, but she has no breasts. What does that mean? Amr Rabbi Yochanan zu Elam. This is Elam shezachsa lilmod. It merited to learn velo zachsa lilamed, but it never merited to teach. Sounds like it was very arrogant. Mai Bavel. Amr Rabbi Yochanan. What does Bavel mean? Means Babylon, but what does the word Bavel mean? Amr Rabbi Yochanan belula. It's also from the word mixed. It's mixed together b'mikra, belula b'mishnah. It's mixed together with mishnayos, and belula b'talmud, and it's mixed with Gemara. So meaning Bavel, the Talmud Bavli that we study every morning, is mixed with all three. As it says, b'machashokim hoshavni b'machashokim hoshivani k'mesi olam. You place me in the darkness, k'mesi olam, like the dead people of the world. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, zet talmuna shel Bavel. It's dark. Now the Medrash Tanchuma and Parshas Noach says that talking about Yavan and Gemara learning, said they're both considered darkness. Greece is darkness, and the Gemara learning is darkness. However, there's a big difference. Gemara has light at the end. The Greek culture had no light at the end of the tunnel. So that's why the Gemara always tashma, come and listen. In the Yerushalmi, it always says tachazi, come and see. And the Yerushalmi is more clear in a certain way. They had more clarity. Okay. You're allowed to accept an invalid witness upon yourself. Amar lo, says the mission, Namalai Abba, Namalai Avicha, Namalai Shosh Roi Bakar. So Reuben tells Shimon, listen, we're going to go to court. So it's believed to me if your father, my father, your father, 3 shepherds that are invalid to be witnesses. So it's okay with me. If they come and testify, I accept the testimony. So now, can you ever retract on that or not? Rav Meir Omer, Yachol Lakzer, Chachamim Omer, Eni Yachol Lakzer Bo. Rav Meir says, yeah, you can retract. Chachamim say, no, you can't retract. Hayachayav Lechaveru Shvua, you were obligated biblically, maybe even rabbinically. You're obligated a oath to your friend, meaning it was a case where you had to swear to either absolve yourself. So you had to make a shvuah. But Amar Lo, and now he tells you. So Reuben has to make a shvuah to Shimon, whatever the case is. And now Shimon tells him, listen, Dorli b'chai roshcha. Instead of making the whole official shvuah, holding the object, just say the following: swear to me in the life of your head. That was a form of a shvuah. Just say that, and then I'll accept that. If you're willing to utter those words, I'll accept that you're right, and that's it. And the court case will end there. So now, Rav Meir Omer Yachol Achzer Bo, Chacham Omer Yachol Achzer Bo. Rav Meir said you could retract from that too, and Chacham say you cannot retract. So now, Omer Rav Dimi Breder Rav Nachman, Breder Rav Yosef. Yeah. Omer Rav Dimi Breder Rav Nachman, Breder Rav Yosef. Rav Dimi, the son of Rav Nachman, the son of Rav Yosef, says it's Kegon the Kable Aleha Bechad. Our Mishnah is talking about where you have 3 judges, one of them is invalid, and you accept that upon yourself. You don't mind. Yeah. So Amar Yud Amar Shmuel b'machlokas b'macholach aval be'eten lach divrei hakol yachol lachzer bo. So there can be different cases where maybe it's a case where you forego on the debt. The guy owes you money, so it's fine. I forgo on it. That's one case. Or there's another case where I'll give you money. So what are you saying over here? If you're saying it's a case where, listen, let's have your father be a judge, one of the judges, that's fine with me. I don't mind. And you're just forgoing a debt. You're just being machalach. That's when, according to Shmuel, then that's the machlokas, if you could retract or not. But if you offer up money, listen, you tell him, your father could be a judge, and listen, and if you're right, I'll give you money. So then everyone's going to agree you can retract on that. Because to give someone else money, that's much harder. Who says you were so serious about it? So that you could retract. That's the opinion of Shmuel. Rabbi Yochanan Amar be'eten lach machlokas. He says no. Even let's see in a second, but the machlokas is when I will give you. Ibailuhu. We have the following question. Be'eten lach machlokas aval machlok divrei kol ein yachol achzer bo. What did Rabbi Yochanan mean? When you're willing to cough up the money, that's a machlokas, but if you're going to forgo on the money, then everyone agrees you cannot retract. That's probably the simpler understanding. O Dilma, bein bazu machlokas. Maybe Rabbi Yochanan was just saying it's a machlokas in both cases. So, does he agree that everyone agrees by machalach, or does he disagree totally on Shmuel? Shmuel said if I forgo on money, everyone agrees that you cannot retract. And does Rabbi Yochanan argue on that and say, not everyone agrees, that's also machlokas, or not? That is the question. Yeah. So once again, Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan have a debate. Where was the debate in the Mishnah? There's 2 cases. I forgo on money. I accept a judge that's invalid in the case I will forgo on the money. Or I accept the case of a judge that's invalid in the case I will give the money. So when it comes to Shmuel said to give money, everyone agrees you could retract. The machlokas is only when you're going to forgo on money. So now, did Rabbi Yochanan, what's it Rabbi Yochanan? Did he agree partially to that? Or he said in both cases it's going to be a machlokas? Not only when you forgo on the money, even when you're willing to give up the money. So Tashma, let's see. The Amar Rava machlokas be'eten lach. Rava says the machlokas is when I will give you money. Aval b'macholach divrei hakol ein yachol lachzer bo. But when it comes to forgoing, everyone agrees you cannot retract. So now, Iyamers Bishlama, if you understand that Rabbi Yochanan argues be'eten lach machlokas only when you're giving money, aval b'macholach divrei hakol ein yachol lachzer bo. But when you're forgoing on money, he agrees that he holds and everyone agrees you cannot retract. So then it makes sense. Rava is the Amar Rabbi Yochanan. He agrees to the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan. But Ela Iyamers bein mazu machlokas. If you tell me that Rabbi Yochanan says both by machalach and by etenlach, whether you're foregoing or you're giving money, in both cases of machlokas, so then Rava goes like nobody. Rava the Amar Kaman. Who does Rava go like? Not like Shmuel, not like Rabbi Yochanan. So we say, you're right. Rava, time it didn't have Kamar. End of the day, Rabbi Yochanan and Shmuel have their opinions, and Rava had a third opinion, and that's that. Now, Eiser Rav Acha Bar Tachlifa l'Rava. Rav Acha Bar Tachlifa asked on Rava. Look at the end of our Mishnah. Hayachayev lechaveiro shvua. You're obligated to your friend a oath. V'amar lo, and you tell him dorli b'chaye roishcha. Make a shvua like this that swear to me on the life of your head, and that's enough. So what's that case? Is that case where I am absolving myself of owing you money, or I'm giving you money? Rabbi Meir Omer Yochel Akzer, Chamor Meini Yochel Akzer, both turning the page. So what's the case in the end of the Mishnah? In the end of the Mishnah, we'll be able to shed light on the beginning of the Mishnah. Ma'ila ba'osan anishbayim v'loy mishalmin is not a case of those people that are swearing and they don't need to pay. They're absolving themselves of payment. So that's like what the Havalei Kim Machalach. And yet, what do you see? That's a machlokas. So says the Gemara, and therefore even by machalach, it's a machlokas, and that's not like Rava. So says the Gemara, no. It's the rabbinic kind of oath where you're swearing and taking money. So it's the oath where the guy is going to make you swear, and then you're going to have to give money. So that's the havalei ke'etenlach. That's like a case where you're giving money, and yet we see there's a machlokas there. So says the Gemara, how could that be? But we already learned that in the beginning, that when you're coughing up money, it's a machlokas. So you're just repeating yourself twice. Says the Gemara, no, a big difference. Tana tola b'das acherim, v'tana tola b'das atzmo. The beginning of the Mishnah talks about where you're depending on other people. You say, okay, your father will be a judge. The case in the end of the Mishnah is where you're depending on yourself, if you make the shvuah or not. So, and now we're saying that they're both talking about giving up money, and now the Gemara is going to say that you need both of them. It's richa. The tana tola b'das acherim. If you only have the case where you're depending on other people, b'hakam Rav Meir demati haderbei, there Rav Meir said that you can go back because you're dependent on other people. Mishum delo gamaru makni. Who said you fully agreed to do this? You're depending on someone else. So there, maybe there Rav Meir said you're allowed to go back. The Amar mi yered the mezakile. Who says that they're going to come out that I'm innocent? So aval tola b'das atzma, when you're at the end of the Mishnah, when you have to make your own shvuah to have to give money, so then ema modu lahu l'rabbanan, maybe you'll agree to the rabbanan that you cannot retract. Now v'yeshin b'ha kami rabbanan, maybe only the rabbanan say by the latter case that you cannot retract. Aval b'hahi, but in the first case, ema modu l'Rav Meir, when you're dependent on other people. Maybe there they agree to Rav Meir that you can retract because you're depending on other people, tzricha. So that's tzricha. You need that to teach you. You have to have both cases, but it's not going to be a proof or a rebuttal against Rava's opinion. So when can you retract? After the verdict or before the verdict? Says Reish Lakish, only beforehand, not afterwards. Rabbi Yochanan Amar la'achar Gemar din machlokas. Nope. Rabbi Yochanan argues and says even after the Gemar din, even after they finalized it, that's still a machlokas. Can you go back on it or not? Now, same thing as before. What did Rabbi Yochanan mean? Did he mean to say ibailuhu la'achar Gemar din machlokas alifnei Gemar din divrei kol yachol lachzer bo? Was Rabbi Yochanan coming to say that after the verdict is a machlokas, but beforehand, everyone holds you could retract? Oh, Dilma. Bein bazu, bein machlokas. It's one argument across the board. Can you ever retract or not? Whether it's before, whether it's after, it doesn't matter. So do we allow you to retract beforehand and everyone agrees, even the Rabbanon? Or do we say that both cases you are not able, both before and after the verdict, is a machlokes Rav Meir and the Chachamim. Let's bring a proof. Tashma Damar Rav Akiva Lav Karva Pasal Lifnei Gemar Din Yachol Lagzer Bo La'achar Gemar Din Ein Yachol Lagzer Bo. Explicitly, the brisa. It's interesting. The brises are always Tanayim. Here you have a brisa which brings Rav as an Amora. Interesting thing. I never ever saw that. So it's just means a teaching. Okay. Either way, Rava says that Rava himself says that before the Gemara Din you can go back, and after Gemara Din you cannot go back. So now, who's Rava like? If you'll tell me that when Rabbi Yochanan said that according to Rabbi Yochanan, after the verdict is a machlokas, but beforehand everyone agrees that you could retract, so then Rava the Amar Rabbi Yochanan, beautiful. Rava goes like Rabbi Yochanan, and that's great. So the Aliba de Rabbanan, and according to the Rabbanan, who say that you cannot retract. If you tell me that Rabbi Yochanan holds Bein Bazu machlokas, it's a machlokas in both beforehand and afterwards. So Rava the Amar Keman, who's Rava going like? If according to Rabbi Yochanan it's always a machlokas, Rava said before the Gemara Din, everyone agrees that he holds that you could retract. So who's he going like? And it sounds like, and don't say like Rav Meir, because he goes like the Rabbanon. Elo, what do you have to say? Lav shmamino la'achar Gemara Din machlokas. After the Gemara Din is the machlokas shmamino. Okay, we will catch up on Shabbos, B'ez Hashem. Yeah.